where we will celebrate today the life and birth of one of our beloved gods, Sri Krishna. And we have special reverence for him because, as you can see, he is our guru as well. And he has proclaimed in the Gita that I have taught the yogic teachings at the beginning of time to the sun god. So he is the father of the yogic teachings of Kriya Yoga. And of course, Yogananji told us that he is also Babaji, again, our very revered guru. But the greatness of an avatar is not measured by the number of people who are devoted to him or that we are devoted to him. What is the standard that we must measure him by? It is his own life. It is his own attitude and action that he did in every situation, in every relation, in every moment of his life. And Krishna has been called a Purna Avatar. Precisely that, because he met every standard that we could put to him. He was a complete person, a complete father, son, brother, friend, guru, king, warrior. In every way he was perfect. And what is the proof that we have? In those times, the best in all of these aspects would bow down to him. Isn't it? Bhishma Pitama, the mightiest warrior of those times. Who would he bow down to? Nobody in the world except Krishna. What about Vidur? He was the wisest, considered the wisest of those times. But who would he bow to? That was Krishna. Arjun, the greatest Dhanurdhar. Yudhishthir, the most dharmic person that we have learnt about, the most principled person. Dronacharya, Kripacharya, the greatest gurus. All of them beheld him as their own perfection. They saw their own perfection in him. And he was not limited by one aspect. All of these aspects were perfected in him. Yet, one of his particular roles, his Leela, is particularly endearing for us. So many times we hear him being mentioned, Krishna, my friend, right? This is the aspect, I think, that has really the Leelas of that aspect that he gave to us, he expressed in his life, is particularly endearing to us. And why is that? Because Yogananji himself said that friendship is one of the highest relationships. And why? Again, because there is no compulsion in a relationship. You set your own boundaries. If you don't want to follow a friend's advice, you don't have to, right? You set your own boundaries. In mother, father, family relation, all of them, there are certain duties and obligations which come up. But friendship offers complete freedom. And in the spiritual path, we are looking for complete freedom. Krishna himself declares in the Bhagavad Gita that Arjun, I will declare this wisdom of the Gita to you because you are my devotee and my friend. And explaining this in the essence of Bhagavad Gita, Swami Kriyananda also says that even a mother's relation, when we look at God as a mother, still there is this expectation and a little, unequal relation where, oh, she's my mother, she must transcend all my sins, she must purify me, she must do this. But he says, finally, a devotee must evolve into a friend. Because then he becomes one with God. Now he knows with complete confidence that you and me are one. You have to love me. There is no other way. In fact, that thought doesn't cross as well. So that kind of sweet relationship, that complete realization of oneness is what Krishna portrayed in so many of his Leelas to us. We've all heard of Sudama, right? So I'm not going to repeat that tale. But he was an impoverished Brahman. And what was he? One of the mightiest kings, Krishna. What do we say usually? अरे भाई दोस्ती रिश्तेदारी तो बराबर वालों में होनी चाहिए, right? And when Sudama reaches Krishna, what happens? Does he have any trace of shame that, oh, what a friend has come ragged looking No, he just goes down halfway, I think, on the road running to fetch his friend, you know. So he doesn't care what the world thinks. It doesn't even bother him what he is. Only the essence of friendship glows in him. Only this essence of friendship is what he remembers. And how he serves him. Does he think about high and low? Nothing like that. With the Pandavas also we saw. The Pandavas were the mightiest, now we know after the end of the Mahabharata. But in those times, they had no power. They had no friends. They had no kingdom. Most of the time, if you see in the serial Mahabharata, they are living in the jungle in a hut. They are constantly being thrown out of the kingdom. Does it affect Krishna? The way he was with them when he was in a palace, when they were in a palace, it was the same when they were in a hut. In fact, the thought, when you look at the serial Mahabharata, I'm sure you all agree, that thought even never even came. Ki how come he's a friend of theirs? Because there was never this thing that, oh my God, they are in a hut and he's like a mighty king. So that thought, I think, never occurred to him, and that's an example he wants to give us. And in fact, his friendship with Draupadi was, I think, the most tender and the most beautiful. Just spontaneous friendship. So if you remember this story where Krishna gets hurt by his own Sudarshan Chakra a little bit, there's a little wound, tiny wound, just one wouldn't even bother, thinking about it. But instantly Draupadi sees, and the first reaction is she tears her sari and she binds his hand, his finger, little finger. So that moment, that spontaneous love between them is amazing. And we know when she was dishonored in the royal court, we know that piece of sari was what apparently became those meters and meters and meters of sari that came to protect her. And then whether she asked or not, that is the most beautiful part. Because they were just one with each other, and that's what friendship is, to God also. So, maybe you have heard this story, but it's a very nice one. So, I will repeat it. As usual, we know the Kauravas were very jealous of the Pandavas, and the Pandavas were constantly being sent into the jungle by them. But they were not happy just by sending them to the jungle. They wanted more harm to befall them. So what do? They tell sage Durvasa that, oh, we have honored you a lot, but I'm feeling very bad. I think Duryodhan said this. I'm feeling very bad that my brothers should be deprived of having the chance to serve you. And you know who's Durvasha Rishi. I mean, yeah. So one instant, I don't think anybody really ever wanted to serve him because you probably got cursed at the end of it. So Durvasha says, oh, you're such a good man, and you're such a great brother that you're thinking of your brothers even when they're so far away. I will definitely do what you say, and I will go and visit them and bless them. Curse them, bless them. So he says, okay. So off he goes into the jungle and finds them after lunch in the afternoon, after the kitchen has all gone and finished and the food is over. And he's like, now we have come, the 20, 30 of us, and we will honor you by eating your food. And Draupadi is like, which food should I offer him? I mean, there are like 20 of them suddenly, and they're like, we are just going for a bath for 5 minutes, and then we are back here, and we would like your hospitality. Now they are all obviously in a tizzy of what's going to happen to them now. So Draupadi is like, and as the woman of the house, she's like, yeah, it's my duty to have food for guests and everything. And she's really feeling bad and obviously fearful of the curses. So who would appear but Krishna? And what does he do? He comes in saying, oh, I'm very hungry. And Draupadi is, oh, ek aur. Now what? Because she was a friend, she could tell him, where do you think I'll get food in the middle of the afternoon for you? Upar se there's this Durvasha Rishi sitting with 20 of his sages in the water waiting for food. So he said, oh, but look, there must be something. She said, there is nothing. I have checked again and again ki kuch to mil jaye, but there is nothing. So Krishna says, but go look. And finally, he himself comes into the kitchen with her and he says, "Look, you were lying to me. There is this grain of rice at the bottom of this utensil." She said, "What will you do with one grain?" He said, "Oh, let's see. It's enough for me." And he eats and he burps. Yeah, he's fully satisfied with that one grain of rice. And most importantly, 20 other men are also burping in the river. Yeah, fully satisfied with their stuffed tummies. And now they are ashamed, ki, what will we eat there? We are so stuffed. And they just run away from there. So, this is just what God can do as a true friend for us. When we are one with Him, we don't even need to ask Him, what are we, what do we really need? He just comes and gives it to us. But despite all of this, I think Chika will also talk to us about more aspects of Krishna. But what made him an avatar? Yes, he was Purn Avatar, we call him Purn person, right? A perfect person. In everything that he did, the advice that he gave, the lives that he touched, everybody that he touched would love him. They wouldn't want to let him go. We can see in his life, everybody welcomed him, like their hearts would open when he would enter. Yet that is not enough to make him an avatar. What truly made him an avatar? That he had all of this, the abundant love and wealth and wisdom flowing through him, yet there was not a trace of ego consciousness in him. So let me end with this one quick story of Sage Brigu. And we've all heard of Sage Brigu. So he decides that us zamane mein, I think these sages would interact with God like, literally they're in one house, living in one house. So Brigu sage decides that let me test the Tridev, ki who should I really, worship? Who should I give my total loyalty to? Which of these three gods? Brahma, Vishnu or Mahesh? So he says, I can't do that till I test them out. So off he reaches to Brahmaji's court. And Brahmaji is watching some music program and all of that happening. And so Brigu Rishi reaches Brahmaji's court and starts shouting, "What arrogance! Didn't you see that a great sage like me has arrived in your court and you're engrossed in this bhajan kirtan, hopefully, or whatever it was?" So he starts, "You are nothing. What do you create in this world?" Yogananji gave a really nice rendition that all of these plagues and these bimaris that you've created, and you sit there looking so proud, and all of these things he said to him. And Brahmaji obviously got infuriated and he's like, "I'm going to, burn you to ashes." He's like, "How can you burn me? I'm one with God. What arrogance." And Brahmaji said, yeah, that's true. I cannot do much with you." So Brigu says, "I'm leaving." And Brahmaji is like, "Thank God." And then Brigu Rishi reaches Shivji, who is probably in Samadhi. And he's like, "What arrogance! You don't see great rishis who worship God, and they have, because of us, you are there," and all sorts of insults that he could muster. And Shivji also, "I will open my spiritual eye and burn you to ashes." He says, "You can burn me, but can you burn my God essence?" And all of that. And Shivji is like, yeah, I can't, okay, sorry, and everything. And Brigu is disappointed, but he just goes off in a huff. And then he wants to go to Vishnuji, who is presently on earth as an avatar of Krishna. So he reaches where Krishnji is. And Krishnji is sleeping. And Brigu Rishi starts shouting, "What is this sleeping when such a great sage has come to you?" And with his foot, he just gives him a big kick on his chest. And Krishna just wakes up smiling. And he's like, "What's happening here?" And he just completely goes down on his knees to Brigu Rishi and catches his feet and starts massaging it. So Brigu is like, "What's happening here? What are you doing?" So he's like, "Oh my God, you are such a great sage, Brigu. And I am a warrior. My chest is so hard like a rock. I'm sure your leg must have got hurt by hitting me with it. So I am massaging it." you know. So Bhrigu then falls on his feet and he says, yes, you are the one. Right? So this is exactly what it is. There was no trace of ego consciousness. He was one with God. He is God. Thank you.
It is said that the path to God is narrow. There's no room for two people to walk side by side. That is to say, there's no room for two desires to be there in that path. The desire for God and desire for the world, if you really want God. And in our daily life, however, we do have two desires or more, from tiny little desires to the big ones. Our path to God is pretty crowded. But when we celebrate Janmashtami or Christmas, the occasion when the great avatar has descended on earth to be with us, then, thinking of the fact that he is in this such a tiny, fragile form, or, tuning into the stories of them as babies and child, just it is natural to that our hearts get filled with just the love for them, just the love, nothing else. It just reminds me of those people in Vrindavan in the stories of little Krishna. The Krishna goes, or let's say like a tree fell on Krishna, or he jumps into that poisonous pond and he doesn't come back, and the boys and the Krishna, all of them have gone into the forest and they haven't come back, and the people in the Vrindavan are worried. It's like, where's our Krishna? Our Krishna? And they're not worried about their own children, but they're worried about Krishna. Only Krishna. That's how their hearts are filled. And, by playing this Leela as a baby, they are giving us an opportunity to experience what it is like to have the only desire. To have just the desire for God in our heart, even though it might be for a short time and we might get back into our daily life, but still we get how it feels, that we get to feel that. As Vasudha said, in the Gita also, Krishna calls Arjuna my devotee and friend. And I was going to talk about it exactly the same thing as Vasudha, but now I can skip. But still, what Swamiji said in this, he wrote very nicely. He said, "It is a thought wondrous to contemplate. As the devotee advances spiritually, he is accepted by the Lord himself, not only as a devotee, but as a friend." And this thought of, yes, we are one, we are friends. And friendship is both ways. We call him friend, and he calls us friend. And here's a beautiful little story about Krishna's flute. So young Krishna, he used to go out into the garden every day and greet all the plants and say, "I love you." And all the plants reply, "Krishna, we love you too." But one day when he came out into the garden, he was a little tensed and serious. So the bamboo plant asked, "What's wrong with you? What happened?" And Krishna says, well, I have to ask you something. It's very important. The bamboo replies, tell me, I'll do whatever I can. I'll give you whatever you want. Krishna says, I want your life. I need to cut you. And after thinking about it for a while, the bamboo said, yes, if you say so, I surrender to you. So the Krishna cuts the bamboo, made holes, and made a beautiful flute. And this flute, Krishna is carrying, all the time, 24 hours a day. And even the gopis got jealous. They tell this bamboo flute that we only get to be with him just a short time, but you're with him all the time. He sleeps with you, he wakes up with you. What did you do? What's the secret? And the bamboo says, well, the secret is I am empty inside. I let the Lord do whatever he wants with me, whenever and however he wants to do it with me. I have surrendered to him. So the secret of having God with us all the time is that complete surrender. We allow him to do whatever he wants to do with us, whenever and however, as he wants. Then we can be with him all the time, like the flute. I am too busy to seek God. This phrase sounds familiar, isn't it? Many people say that, and we might have said that. I'm sure I have said that. But to such remarks, Paramhansa Yogananda responded like this. What if God were too busy to think of you? You would cease to exist in that moment. God is with us all the time, thinking of us all the time. He's our best friend. He supports us. Sometimes he pulls us from the front, and sometimes he pushes us from behind. And the other times, he's right there by our side, listening to our thoughts, whispering his thoughts. How can we reciprocate to his love and such friendship? By opening ourselves, by emptying our hearts, by emptying all that other desires out of the way, so that only that love for him remains. So I would like to invite everyone to use this opportunity of Janmashtami to just think of him more than you ever. Just continue to talk to him, feel his presence with you, fill your heart with his love, only his love. Jai Guru.